The local Cleveland media keep going relentless on Shedeur Sanders. He entitled, distracted, developing slow, can't learn the playbook, not getting practice reps with the scout team, not getting practice reps at all. But what if I told you? Then don't none of that got to do nothing with football. This goes deeper than people realize. If y'all ain't seen it, Tom Brady came out on Colin Cowherd. Now this is pertaining to the Browns saying they developing quarterback.
Everybody knows how to develop a quarterback. You're assuming that you're going into a program. I mean, I'm telling you, this is not, there's a lot of people who have no idea what they're doing when they're tasked with coaching a quarterback or calling an offense. So are you saying, I mean, just like we'd rank quarterbacks 1 to 32, do you rank offensive coordinators 1 to 32? Do you rank quarterback coaches 1 to 32? Well, what if you have the 32nd ranked coordinator in someone's mind with the 32nd ranked quarterback coach? How is he getting a level of development?
The NFL practically stopped breathing when Tom Brady jumped online and went full investigator, calling out Cleveland for allegedly setting up Shedeur Sanders to fail. Brady didn't just speak, he launched a truth grenade that had people wondering if the Browns are running a football team or some undercover mission gone wrong. Something wild is happening in Cleveland, and it's way bigger than a sloppy game plan. Nobody expected this. Tom Brady, the same guy known for discipline sharper than a laser, suddenly stepped into the role of the league's unofficial truth enforcer and aimed straight at Cleveland.
Sat behind Drew, who was a franchise quarterback, right? In my second year, it's training camp, and we had a very good quarterback coach named Dick Rabine, and God rest his soul. Unfortunately, he passed away in training camp and of a heart attack. And it was a very difficult loss for our team. And the way that we found a way to continue on that season is Bill Belichick became more of a quarterback coach than we ever imagined him being a quarterback coach. He was he was obviously a head coach.
Y'all, is either the Browns are actually developing Shedeur, which I told y'all before too. They actions say otherwise. But Tom Brady gonna break it down in how he got developed early on in his career, eventually lead him to 7 Super Bowls. So if quarterbacks not getting developed, anything similar to this?
But apparently, this is the same franchise that somehow finds a way to trend even when they're trying to stay invisible, and yet here they are again, right in the center of chaos. This time it wasn't about a rebuild or another quarterback shuffle, it was way messier. Brady came out and basically said Cleveland sabotaged Shedeur Sanders, and the whole league instantly lost it. You'd assume Brady would be somewhere in retirement mode, sipping something green and pretending yacht life is enough excitement. But clearly, nonsense travels fast because he still jumps in when he sees something off. And what he saw in Cleveland wasn't just sloppy coaching. He made it sound like a full-scale organizational disaster wearing a football uniform.
Let's give him a chance. Let's give him a chance with the play calling. You know you have an offensive line that isn't playing that well. So what do? Why not just play the short game so he can get the ball out of his hands very fast to run a competent goddamn offense? Outside of that, Shedeur has to be better in understanding that the offensive line that you're working with right now is not adequate. Why not allow the players that are competing for a job, in this instance, Shedeur Sanders?
But I'm going to answer this question by saying Shedeur Sanders. And I'm going to tell you why. I think he's being set up to fail. That's right, I'm going to say it.
Okay.
Here we are on national television, right? There's been 11 practices, if I remember correctly. He's been he's been playing against the third unit. He's 4th on the depth chart. And then suddenly you throw him into the start lineup and he hasn't had any reps with the first team at all. Think about that. So you're just going to throw him to the wolves like that, huh? I mean, you know, if he had first team snaps in practice,
Brady pointed out something he says the NFL keeps doing, treating players like they're on trial 24/7, while coaches walk around untouched like they're above critique. That hit plenty of nerves. Every step a player takes gets dissected like it's a government file, but the coaches, they get hyped up as geniuses, even when their game plans look like they were scribbled during a bus ride. Brady wasn't letting that slide one bit. He basically said straight up that some coaches wouldn't recognize development even if a whole playbook jumped at them. And that brings us to Shedeur Sanders, the young QB who's getting analyzed like he's some science project while the coaches walk around clean. Cleveland somehow turned his transition into something that feels less like development and more like a setup. Imagine stepping into a brand new system where the coaches act like teaching doesn't exist, then turning around and questioning your readiness. That's wild. It's like someone telling you to bake a cake with no ingredients, then getting mad because you didn't magically pull out a perfect dessert. That's the type of situation SHA Door's dealing with right now, and Brady wasn't going to pretend it made sense. Cleveland's coaches have been walking around like they're completely innocent, handing out evaluations and criticism. But when someone asks which one of them actually spent real time helping the kid grow, silence.
I always had this theory that quarterbacking should be easier now. You have personal coaching, 7-on-7 camps. Guys like you and Drew Bledsoe and Troy Aikman have told me, like, I literally had 8 high school games a year. You're like, I had 40 starts, including high school. Well, guys now have 10,000 snaps by the time they're 14 years old. So I've always said as a sports commentator, I used to give guys 3 years. My argument now is Thanksgiving year 2, the GM, the coach, the coordinator need to go upstairs in a room privately, raise their hands, yes or no.
Call. He makes that call. Why? Because I want the last thing people to see is the mistakes and the sacks that happen and not give him a chance to redeem himself. Because I think probably what would have happened, okay, we can't have Shedeur come in here and finish this 2-minute drive and go down and get a touchdown. We don't want that. And in chat, for those of you who are listening and watching, I'm not making any excuses for him. He played bad. But I can tell you why he played bad. I mean, if you know the game of football and understand the game of football, understand that those that are in there with him during that time.
Why is the third quarterback getting interviewed? You got nothing to do with the game. Okay? It's all for media clicks. And, he's a heck of a personality, but the personality can't come out till you do something on the field. And, it's a big week for Dylan Gabriel and a big week for the Browns. I mean, making that transition for him even be available to the press. I don't know why he's doing it.
You tell me. You know how that works. Is that the front office? Is that the comms team? Like, who's putting him out? So we're saying it's not really on him. We have to protect him. He's a young player.
Yep.
Why are we making him available?
Exactly. To me, I mean, there's no sense to have
It's almost like Cleveland thinks development means passing out a helmet and sending a player on his way with a pat on the back. Then when the plan collapses, they throw their hands up like, see, not ready. Brady wasn't fooled. This is the same guy who helped turn late-round receivers into legit stars. He knows raw talent when he sees it, and he knows when the environment around that talent is messed up. Cleveland's issue isn't that Shedeur can't play. It's that they never truly built him up in the first place. That's why things got awkward fast, because when Brady calls somebody out, everybody tunes in, especially the ones getting cooked in the conversation. And naturally, Cleveland tried to cover it up with the classic PR talk.
He get thrown in there with the Wolves, because the real Wolves come during the season.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh is coming. Baltimore is coming. The real Wolves is coming. Now, I am praying to God that Shedeur gets an opportunity to show what he can really do. And I think that would be probably the best thing for him. But knowing the Cleveland Browns, they dumbass gonna trade him.
I've heard ex-players talk about Shedeur. I've heard ex-NFL coaches. I've heard media members, meaning like beat reporters. I've heard fans talk about Shedeur. And it's funny. I was on with my buddy Bill Ryder today, and I declared myself as Switzerland. And he's like, well, it sounds like you're more like, maybe, I can't remember what he said, but basically then more positive about Shedeur than not. And I was like, well, I think some of my positivity is I look at the kid and I go, skill set wise, I think he has what it takes to be anywhere from the 13th best starting quarterback in the NFL.
Competition, evaluation, development. But all those words fall apart when your so-called plan looks more like leaving a player on his own with no real support. It's wild how coaches love preaching accountability until the spotlight flips back on them. Brady basically compared NFL coaching culture to a messy office where the interns get blamed for every tiny mistake while the managers get pats on the back after causing total confusion. It's a broken setup, and Shedeur just happens to be the latest person caught in the middle of it all. Cleveland's coaching inconsistency isn't even a secret anymore. Everyone's been talking about it for years. One coach claims they're developing a quarterback, another claims they're still evaluating, and another one acts like he can't even remember the player's name. It feels like every meeting has a brand new plan, and none of those plans actually involve improving the guy they're coaching. Brady's point hit hard because fans didn't just hear it, they recognized it instantly. And right when things seemed like they couldn't get messier, here comes Stephen A. Smith, the man who can turn frustration into a full performance.
And that's what you asked for. You know, that's what you asked for within the game. If I could go back and do anything, I mean, it's always everything in life if you had that chance, but we don't have the luxury to travel back in time. As a kid, I want to go back and do things differently. So overall, of course, you know, you wish you can, but in the battle of the moment, in the heat of the battle, you know, you want to be that alpha, you want to be that dog, you want to be out there in that final 2-minute drive. So, you know, of course, small things, of course, frustrate, but that's what happens, you know, when you want a player to be able to
Now, he's got to put in the work. He's got to adapt to the NFL. He's got to adapt to not being coached by his dad. But physically, when we talk about physical talent, the concerns I have about Dillon Gabriel aren't there with Shedeur. Now, I would not have taken him with a number 2 pick under any circumstances. I might have thought about it at 33 or 35. I definitely would have thought about it at 92 over Dillon Gabriel. But the truth is, like, I don't feel beholden to either of these quarterbacks. Like, we should treat them like scratch-off lottery tickets until proven otherwise. But I'm watching the discourse fall out with Shedeur Sanders. And the latest one's pantomiming, but certainly the one before this was him saying that he feels like he could do better than a lot of starting quarterback stuff you see around the NFL.
As soon as Brady's comments dropped, Stephen A. didn't just agree, he exploded. He's been warning people for months that Chad's situation felt more like sabotage than opportunity. He said it flat out. That's not development. That's a setup. It's like handing someone the keys during a storm and saying, show us what you got, while everything around them is falling apart. You can't build timing, leadership, or confidence when the only teammates you're working with are still trying to earn a practice squad spot themselves. That's not growth. That's survival mode. And then Louis Riddick slid into the convo, and when Riddick shows up, things always get detailed and uncomfortable fast. He didn't water anything down either. He agreed that Shedeur has the traits to succeed, but he tore apart the Browns' so-called developmental plan. Riddick said the reps were lacking, the structure wasn't there, and the effort behind it all felt empty. In his words, the situation wasn't development, it was delay. Riddick pushed it even further. He highlighted how other young quarterbacks around the league are getting steady reps, real coaching, and actual patience. Meanwhile, Shedeur was stuck trying to survive on his own in a playbook that felt like a puzzle missing pieces. How can anyone perform when they're the only one who doesn't know the full rhythm of the offense? Every snap turns into a high-pressure audition instead of a chance to grow, and nobody said a word in defense of him. The silence was loud. If no one in leadership stepped up for him, that means he's basically an orphan inside the organization, trying to figure out his career with no guidance. That's a recipe for disaster, not development. And then came the moment that made this whole saga look like a football drama series. Jimmy Haslam himself, the Browns owner, casually admitted he didn't even know Shedeur had been signed. None. He said he left the whole decision up to the coaches. How does an owner not know a quarterback is being brought in? That's not leadership. That's someone wearing a suit while the operation runs itself into confusion. After that confession, Brady's comments hit even harder. How is a player supposed to thrive when the people running the place don't even know who's walking through the door? Haslam's words made the situation sound like someone saying, "Oh, we adopted someone. Hope he's doing all right." That's not how you run an NFL franchise. That's how you create chaos with a logo attached to it. And if you thought Stephen A. was fired up before, wait until he heard Haslam's comments. He He came back ready for a storm. He said exactly what everyone else was too polite to put into words. Haslam's whole "I didn't know" moment didn't feel like a slip-up. It felt like a move, a clean way to dodge responsibility while pretending he's just chilling on the sidelines. And just like that, another young quarterback story gets rewritten before it even has a real chance to start. Suddenly, Brady's outburst didn't look like a rant. It looked like he was exposing the blueprint. He wasn't just standing up for Shedeur. He was standing up for every young quarterback who gets chewed up by messy systems just like this. The league is packed with coaches recycling the same lines, talking about evaluations and process, while never actually creating an environment where a player can succeed. Shedeur just became the perfect example of how broken that whole setup really is. And here's the twist. Brady knows this life firsthand. He used to be in Shara's position. Drafted late, underestimated, barely getting reps. The difference? He had Bill Belichick, a coach who, quirks and all, actually believed in building players up instead of tossing them aside. If Brady didn't get that chance, the world might have never seen him become the GOAT. That's exactly why his words hit so hard. He's proof that development matters, and he can smell when a player's getting robbed of it. Right now, the NFL has a culture where players get blamed for everything while coaches hide behind big words and job titles. Brady called out how wild it is that some underqualified coaches get to decide who deserves opportunity. It doesn't feel like a merit system, more like an ego contest with headsets and clipboards. And here's the funny part. Cleveland's coaches really thought they could quietly push Shadow aside without anyone noticing, as if the whole football world isn't watching every snap, every rotation, every tiny adjustment. Then Brady spoke up, and suddenly their whole plan looked less like strategy and more like a cover-up. It's almost poetic. The guy who thrived in structure is now calling out a system that refuses to create any. He's like that retired professor who shows up years later and realizes the students are still being taught the same outdated stuff he fought against ages ago. Except now the stakes aren't grades. They're millions of dollars in a young quarterback's future. And let's be honest, Shadow isn't some random talent that popped up out of nowhere. He's got pedigree, confidence, and legit skill. He's not out here guessing. He can play. But while Cleveland's coaches will keep their jobs, do press conferences, toss around words like growth and learning curve, Shedeur will be the one trying to rebuild his confidence while the same coaches collect checks without taking a real accountability. Brady's message cut through all the noise. If players get judged like professionals, then coaches should get held to the same standard. Don't praise a coach just for wearing team colors and giving a speech. Judge them on how prepared their players actually are. Because at the end of the day, a quarterback's success isn't just skill, it's environment, structure, and support. And the ripple effect from Brady's comments already started. Analysts, fans, even former players are calling out the hypocrisy louder than ever. How is it that players can lose jobs over one rough performance, but coaches can derail multiple careers and still walk away with raises and extensions? The imbalance is wild, and Brady just put the biggest spotlight on it the league has seen in a long time. When Tom Brady steps up and speaks, it's never just some rumor floating around. It's a real warning shot. He's saying out loud what players have been whispering for years. Coaching is the NFL's biggest hidden factor, the one thing nobody measures but everybody feels. You can have all the talent in the world, but if your staff doesn't believe in you, you're already fighting uphill before you even take a snap. And honestly, if Brady didn't jump in, this whole situation might have slipped into that offseason haze and vanished. But now, Cleveland's under the brightest spotlight they've had in a long while. Every step with Shedeur will get examined. Every rep, every comment, every little move. They're basically on trial now, because when the GOAT calls you out, you don't just shrug it off and keep walking. What makes it all so poetic is how it reflects the bigger picture. The league still hasn't figured out how to protect its future players. There's a system where politics outrun progress, and loyalty gets prioritized over actual logic. Maybe it's time the NFL stops pretending this is only about competition and starts admitting the truth. Sometimes the real game isn't happening on the field at all. It's taking place behind closed doors where decisions get made long before the first snap ever happens. And until that behind the scenes game changes, Brady's words are going to bounce through every single locker room in the league. If coaches can't build up their players, then maybe it's time we start looking at rebuilding the coaches instead. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more breakdowns and stories just like this.